Greetings. Today I'm going to do a video on where to start in Rawtherapee. I've been using Rawtherapee for quite a few years now, and I just want to create a starting point for myself. There are other photographers that are quite knowledgeable on the program, and I do follow some of their advice and principles, but also for myself I add a tone curve, so for when I bring a photo in such as this, I have a starting point that I'm happy with. So I'm going to go through this relatively quickly and create the tone curve at the end. So before I start, I'm going to come to the preferences and open this up, and image processing, and the default processing profile for the raw photos, also for the non-raw photos, I set to neutral for this example. I'm just going to close this. Now I'm just going to open this. So this is our neutral photo. And I'll come over here and I'll show what the TIFF file looks like coming in as neutral. And this is the final edit for this photo, and this is how it comes in neutral, so it hasn't changed my edited photo, bringing it into Rawtherapee. So now if I come back to our raw photo, so I brought the image in, nothing's been applied. So if I go to the raw tab, nothing's been applied here, no lens correction, no auto matched, so we're at a neutral point. To start with, I'm going to come to the raw tab, and on demosaicing I'm going to leave it on amaze to keep it simple. And if you're a bit more familiar with this program, and if you watched other tutorials, there's other options for demosaicing, but for this I'm just going to leave it on amaze. Going to click on capture sharpening. Next to the transform tab where the scissors are, click on this. Where it says profiled lens correction, I'm going to click on this, the automatically selected. Wait for that to apply, and now it's selected it correctly. The Panasonic S5 and the 50mm, I'm going to uncheck the geometric distortion and the vignetting. I have an option here to check the chromatic aberration. I'm not going to adjust the distortion correction. I'd have another video going over this, the profile lens correction and distortion, and also other photographers have covered this subject. Next I'm going to go to the detail tab and apply the noise reduction and defringe. Then to the color tab, I'm going to scroll down where in color management, where we have working profile, it's set to ProPhoto, and the output profile I want it to set to ProPhoto as well. Now on the left here, I've opened this up a little bit, and we have the vector scope here, but I'll just click back to the histogram. If we have a look here, the red channel is not stepping down evenly with the other channels, the green and blue. And if I change the output profile to ProPhoto, we can now see this is stepping down evenly. If I go to the vector scope, we can see we're in the center. If I scroll over the skin tones here, we can see we're on our reference line here for skin tones. So if I go back one step, we can see when it's set to the sRGB, the RTV4 sRGB. If I scroll over the skin tones, we're not on our reference point here, as I showed before, the change in the histogram as well. So I'll change the output to ProPhoto. Now I consider two options for myself, whether I would use the tone curve, the interpolated. So I'll just turn this on so you can see the tone curve that it gives us. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a snapshot, and I'll call it tone curve, so we can see the difference between the auto matched and the interpolated. Now I'll just uncheck this. Next I'll go to the exposure tab, and on auto matched I'm just going to click on that, and now I'll rename that snapshot auto matched tone curve, and clicking between the two you can see the difference between the interpolated and the auto matched. But for myself, I want to create a custom tone curve for myself. So when I bring the image in, I'm happy with the tone curve, and I can change it while it's there if I need to. So I'm going to come over here next to film like. I'm going to zero this out. I'm going to come down to the arrow, the control cage. I'm going to start to lift up to start to create the curve. Just do this reasonably quickly. Let's pull this down a bit as well. So if I'm happy with this tone curve, now I can save the profile. So I'll just go to the previous, the auto matched. You can see a lot more contrast, it's a lot darker, and the custom tone curve that I created with the control cage. So if I consider this a good starting point for myself, now I'll come up to the save current profile. And I've done a few of these before, and I'm going to click on this one and just rename it. So for myself, to make it easy, I'm on the Panasonic S5, has lens correction. The output is Pro Photo, and it's a custom tone curve. I'll save that. So I do have an option now. If I go back to the preferences, I can come back to the image processing, and if I want to bring this in every time, I can now open this, come to my profiles, and I can select this here if I wanted to have that as default every time I bring this in. But just for now, I'm going to close this. I'm going to open up this to select another image, and if you watched any of my other videos, you'll recognize these photos. So here we have the photos come in as neutral, nothing's been applied as we can see. If I come over to the other tabs, same color space, nothing's been applied. So if I come up to where it says last saved, click on that, choose my profiles and the one that I created. Now I have my custom settings applied to this photo. And if I want to drop down this quite quickly, I can just grab hold of the tone curve and reduce that. And now I have a starting point for myself that I'm happy with when I bring the photos into Rawtherapee. I know other photographers have different ideas how they want to have a starting point for their images. And this is just for myself, how I want a starting point for myself. Also, other application, there's always a learning curve, and I've been learning this over a period of time. So I'm happy with this starting point when I bring my photographs into Rawtherapee. Peace be unto you.